Join us for a driving review of the Toyota Highlander. Let's go! In the front, the Toyota Highlander has a very strong stance. I think a very likable, strong SUV design. High gloss grille in the front. Here a chrome frame around, but there is also one with the black available. LED is standard for the main headlamp unit. You can see here the daytime running light and a silver contrast in the lower part. The length is at 4 meters 96, 16 foot 3 or 195 inches, so full-size SUV. And you can see here, these are the optional 20-inch wheels. Standard would be 18-inch wheels. They deliver a little bit more riding comfort then, but will it still work here with a 20-inch? We'll find out in the driving part. The rear also with a very strong stance, horizontal tail lamp design, and then the lower part is actually wider, contrasting silver in the lower part, this here being the hybrid model. As for engines, in the Northern American market you can get a 3.5-liter V6 pure petrol engine, around 300 horsepower, front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And then there's this one also available, the 2.5-liter hybrid with around 250 horsepower, 8.3 seconds is the acceleration figure. This one also available with front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. However, we here in Europe only get the 2.5-liter hybrid with all-wheel drive. Steering wheel here with the controls for picking up the phone on the left side, the voice window here also for the volume, right side then for controlling the cruise control. This is also nice with the leatherette soft touch cover right there. Then this dashboard here is also somewhat soft touch. Why not? And then as for the seats, this is here actually the animal skin setup, but you can get a lot of alternatives. In the US, for example, you can get black or gray fabric seats. Would recommend that for best climate comfort. But you can also get the so-called Softex. That's a nice leather red, which is available in black, gray and beige in the US. However, we here in Europe only get a black leatherette seat as standard. And then if you go for higher trim levels, automatically here with the animal skin, which is again getting pretty expensive and of course not practical and also ethically doubtful. So then let's get inside. And seating position is good, king of the road. Really feel like a grown-up SUV. Nice seating position here overall also when you lean back. So it's a very comfortable impression. When I put it in the lowest position with 1 meters 86, then it still leaves enough headroom. These here, the electric seats, would also standardly come with a manual seat depending on the trim level. Interior overview is not a very calm atmosphere, and this whole unit is also like, wow, like bam, in your face somewhat. Left side, it would standardly start with a 4.2-inch smaller screen. This is the bigger one with the 7-inch then, the bigger screen in the middle, but still analog gauges left and right. And on the right side, it would start with an 8-inch screen, a smaller one. This one is the optional bigger 12.3-inch. You can see also works better with the whole integration right here. This is the volume knob here, still a classic one on the left side. And also seat heating here is available. Seat cooling does not work at the very same time. So this, wet in winter times, it would be cool if it works parallel, but it doesn't actually. Climate unit still accessible right here for controlling the temperature. So this is actually easy and straightforward. And then this automatic gearbox in the hybrid model, it's a planetary gearbox with a, continuous transmission. So not a classic CVT, but it somewhat feels like it. Waving to colleagues here. So, and here we got the electric handbrake and driving modes, sport mode, normal or eco mode, that also reduces or increases the throttle input. We also have an EV mode button, but usually the car picks it automatically by itself. And then we can slide this cover. It's an inductive charging pad. You can also activate it right here, but you can also put it open right here. And then there's additional storage underneath. Close up at the instruments here, left and right analog, as I said. In the middle part, the screen here, the bigger one. And then you can have assistance system information here. You can have your song information and the energy flow, depending on if recuperation is happening at the moment or not. So again, the visualization looks quite old school, I think. But it basically does the job right here. You can also scroll through different menus, and the big speed in the middle part, probably the most helpful one. So it's quite interesting what options we have here for the rear seating area. Take a look at that first. This is here the setup with the through bench with 3 seats for the rear area. And let me first take a look at how much legroom we actually have. And that's of course cool with the Toyota Highlander. Wow, that's really very, very cool. Plenty of space and very comfortable seating position. Headroom also with 1.86 meters or 6'1", no problem here for the rear area. So that's really, what this car is for. And then you can also, move this bench. There's no, no function to move it right here, but it's right here actually. So here we go. And wow, this is like, it's amazing how far you can actually slide it forward and backward again. And so easy as well. Then you can also adjust this here, the back part, and also can go back in the sleeping position. This is possible. So, and then you might wonder what's the second lever here for. So this is then when you put this one first like this, it goes maximum to here, and then with the second lever you have to activate it right here, and then you can pull it all the way flat. So that's what it's actually for. In the US, you can also get a version, by the way, with captain seats. So that's 2 single seats here for the second row, and then you can just crouch through the middle to the back part. Kids love that. Here, it's also both available in the US and also in Europe. We have that version with the middle seating. It's a little bit stiffer, but it still works, and there's no significant middle tunnel. So you have, a lot of space then here in this area. This is actually pretty cool. 2 USB supplies in the lower part, and you can also get in the premium version also seat heating here for the rear and the rear climate unit. And of course you can do that moving with the bench also here with the other part. So 1/3, 2/3 split. It's actually quite nicely done. And there's also another reason why you have, this slider, and that's of course when you have that through bench, you need some access to the back, and you can use this lever in the lower part or the lever in the upper part. So both is possible. Do the same thing. Fold it and then slide it forward, and then we can actually have access to the third seating row. And here in Europe we have just 2 seats at the rear, so overall 7-seater configuration. And in the US, either with the captain seats you can get 7-seater configuration or 8-seater configuration, because there you have 3 seats in the rear for the third seating row. So once again, it would be like we have here, 2, 3, 2. So that's 7. And in the US, you either have them with the captain seats 2, 2, 3. That's again 7. Or you have 2, 3, 3 for the 8-seater configuration. Was it all correct now? I think so, right? Yeah, Jonas also nods. A little bit complicated, but if you didn't get it, scroll back, listen to it one more time. So now I'll try to crouch into the third seating row. And the question here is always, first of all, with the headroom. That is somewhat possible, okay. But then the more immediate question is, this is of course here when that bench here would be moved all the way backward. That's, not what it's really intended to do. But here, let's say, if I put it back to, how I can still sit here like this. So this would be possible. Yeah, this is okay. I see the comments coming, like not Thomas in the back seat with a minute time mark, but Thomas in the third seating row this time, and it must look even funnier, definitely. So yeah, I think it's for emergency situations, and when you think about the legroom right here and now, no, that's not going to work. So for tall adults, not really possible, or you block the second seating row. That doesn't make any sense. But I mean, that would be for, again, emergency situations, or like the whole small soccer team goes to the next match. Yeah, okay. But it's always good to have it as an additional option at least. That's a pretty weird position here, right? As I said, there can be only one Autogefuel measuring stick. So let's take a look at the trunk, and 40 to 73 cubic feet, minimum to maximum setup, and liter figures 332 like it is here, just for the rear area. Length here is about 50 centimeters then. 865 liters when it's like this, when you fold this seating row right here. The head restraints also fold at a certain degree angle, like this. Backpack here easily fits in, also height-wise. The height here, total height, is 75 centimeters, and the length to the second row is 1.15 meters, and the total length then here is more than 2 meters. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Toyota Highlander, and maybe heard that. So the first few meters we were starting electric. It's an inbuilt hybrid system, as we know from Toyota, and now the combustion engine also hopped on. And in these harsh conditions here with low temperatures and then seat heating on and heating in general on and so on, then the combustion engine also hops on earlier. Would be different than with better climate and when we've, for example, run downhill first and then had some recuperation and so on and so on. So it will automatically switch back and forth. You do have this EV mode button, but at the moment it's not available. Hybrid battery 2 week, it says. So usually just leave it like this, and then the vehicle acts accordingly and automatically. Again, this upright seating position is really helpful. It's a nice cozy ride. You could imagine going on a road trip here now. It feels a little bit more grown up, a little bit bigger than the Toyota RAV4. It actually also is, but you also feel that driving wise. So really feels like a good full-size SUV. Nice view to the front here through this panoramic-like windscreen. Noise insulation, really good. This also then a good difference to the previous generation if you've driven that one. And now we can also accelerate onto 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour and not picking up too much wind noise or tire noise and so on. Of course, there's a little bit gravel here on the road now to increase the friction a little bit here for the winter times. But overall, really nice how that from the whole NVH and so on. So steering is actually quite direct and really responsive indeed. Suspension is so far a good compromise. Doesn't shake up too much, but it's not set on a stiff tone. So my first impression is that they have found a nice compromise where you have not too soft setup, but still enough comfort. You can also see when I have 90-degree corner to steer a little bit more, but not too much actually. So really pleasing how they set up the steering wheel, no real dead zone area and so on. So you feel that you are in a good command over the car, definitely. The software menu there, this is probably the most complicated thing about this vehicle. Everything else is rather simple and straightforward. And the most important controls you can also control while driving. Then here with the separate buttons, that's a good thing to do. Also, then we're looking at the screen here, and so on and so on. If you go for the pure petrol engine or the hybrid, when you have both possibilities in the market, is a question of horsepower, of acceleration. Yes, definitely. In this one here, the hybrid system will be a little bit more fuel saving, because this recuperation is always happening when you lift your foot off the throttle. Then you can also see it goes here into this charging mode here with the charging gauge. And if you hit the brakes, it will charge even more. And you often have situations where it goes a little bit back and forth. In stop-and-go traffic, for example, you can also then drive all electric and the combustion engine will remain shut off, for example. So this is definitely really, really helpful. Here, 80 kilometers an hour now, and we can also accelerate it out, show you an acceleration test. We can also put it at sports mode that will tune the RPMs a little bit from 50 to 100. Let's go. And that's already it. So that's well done. And here I have to be on the brakes because there's traffic approaching. Then we can directly test that there's charging into the battery once again. And that's also a good thing, that not everything is being lost in here if you have that recuperation possibility. That's actually quite good. And I mean, the acceleration was quite quick, wasn't it? And this being here, this so-called eCVT, what they use with planetary gearbox, it's not as bad as these very old classic CVT units we know. So I think also sound-wise, this was still somewhat acceptable. And when you drive this car in a rather smooth way, then it's also, not appearing that, that harmful. It's actually quite interesting then, because you don't have any classic transition between the gears, and that's rather smooth driving experience then as for that. So you don't also feel that it's too big. I mean, for European roads, it's already substantial size, definitely, but the car doesn't feel too big while driving due to this, nice compromise in the suspension, due to the pretty direct. It's a very light steering. You don't have to apply any power or something, and good noise insulation and so on. It's really easy to steer this car in around and in and around town, and it doesn't feel too heavy or too bulky. This battery is placed underneath the rear seats, but you've seen that it doesn't compromise the rear legroom or rear headroom or something. So that's actually totally fine. And there won't also be like a difference in weight-wise. Of course, the weight distribution will be a little bit different in the 3.5 liter V6 petrol engine, because it's a bigger engine in the front, but then again you don't have the battery in the rear. We'll switch it around a little bit, so weight distribution should actually be better here with the hybrid, with the 2.5 hybrid, but it won't play like a crucial difference. So overall, I have to say, it's really confident driving experience, really nice and likable overall. And as I said, you do have, especially for the US market, which is the main market, nice seating choices as well. So leaving aside that the GPS software is somewhat bollocks, you would rather go with your Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto. Everything else, definitely a solid build. And that's also what makes it so favorable, so likable or so popular on the Northern American market, because the price-performance ratio, considering the size you get on the inside and the styling you get on the outside and so on, and then in relation to the price, is there. Actually quite good. But again, tough pill to swallow for Europe, pricing-wise. Then again, you have to think about that for the equivalent of the premium manufacturers, you will still pay more. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Toyota Highlander. It's been a very interesting journey here today, definitely, and directly to our result from the driving. we actually could score a fuel economy of 6.5 liters. That's more than 30 mpg US and more than 40 mpg UK. This is phenomenal for a vehicle of that size here. And how could we do that? Well, we had a good use case for the hybrid system. We went actually rather uphill, and then went the same back down again, downhill. And this was actually pretty cool for the hybrid system, because all the way downhill, the combustion engine was shut off. We were in the electric mode. We were getting some energy back, regenerative braking and so on. And that really put down the consumption. And then inside the city, we could also then still drive all electric, because we had some battery, some battery capacity left then. So really good use case for that. If you rather run straight motorway for a long period of time and just straight, then the hybrid system won't play such an effect. But if you especially going like up and down, it would have a big advantage if you compare it to the pure combustion engine. And then exterior and interior. Look at that here. Really strong stance on the road, so I think it's very likable. Interior is not that fancy, simple materials here and there, high gloss black stuff and so on. So visually, I think there's something to improve definitely. The GPS software and so on is also quite outdated. Rather use your smartphone connection and then you'll find. But overall, it delivers a lot for the money, especially then in the US prices. And the other driving, impressions, like from the steering and suspension and so on, were all very good. So, especially if you think then, for the US prices, I think a very good price-performance ratio. Here in Europe, they somewhat will have a problem to compete with the premium manufacturers, but definitely with that size here, it's basically the price of the mid-size premium SUVs. So if you then compare the direct size competitors, like a BMW X5, Mercedes GLE, or the Audi Q7, this one here delivers a lot of space on the inside, but then at a better price, and that might be then the interesting market niche right here. So I hope you enjoyed our extensive insight here today. Thank you so much for being with us. Always a pleasure with you. And I would say, see you next time.